Hey everybody and welcome. So I'm not gonna lie, this has been a very trying week for me already, but I managed to find the time to sit down and watch the premiere episode of the Book of Boba Fett. For a little bit of background, Boba Fett has pretty much always been my favorite Star Wars villain, if you want to call him that. I can't really say character overall, because he's never had much of a character. Luke would be my favorite character, but certainly design-wise and everything, Boba Fett was always number one in my eyes. You know, not just because of the kind of mystique surrounding him in the original trilogy, but because of his appearance in video games when I was younger. You know, I grew up with Shadows of the Empire and stuff like that, and the action figures and all that stuff, and in all of it, Boba Fett was always just the coolest of the cool to a little kid, you know? And there's just something special about that Mandalorian armor. I don't know. But Disney has finally made a childhood wish of mine come true. They have brought Boba Fett out of the Sarlacc pit, finally. I know he was in books and comics and stuff like that. I'm talking about in live action here, in a movie or a TV show. You know, it's a whole different thing. And when it comes to this episode, it was okay, I think. It's a pretty decent start. I appreciate that it starts with a flashback to him escaping from the Sarlacc pit. I know that is a moment everybody has wanted to see who is a fan of Boba Fett. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a bit underwhelming, but I understand that's not the focus of the story. They just want to show it, you know, for the sake of fan service, kind of move past it and establish the timeline of what happened between his escape and where we see him in The Mandalorian Season 2, and now where he's at in the quote-unquote present day of the Book of Boba Fett. Now, right off the bat, they've made really big changes to his appearance from how he looked in The Mandalorian. He's been taking a bunch of Bacta baths, and so all of his scarring is pretty nicely healed up now. It's a decent way to, in-universe, explain the actual reason for why they did it, which was, you know, when you have an actor who's only playing a semi-recurring character for a couple of episodes of a TV show, you can have him look as gnarly and scarred and burned as you want, because the actor's only going to have to be there for a couple of days of shooting per episode. And so you can make him sit in a makeup chair for like 4 hours while the makeup is applied and everything. What you can't do is expect that actor to do that for every episode of a season of a TV series when they are the lead actor and will be in most, if not all, of the scenes. That's the real reason for why Boba Fett's all healed up. But, you know, luckily, the Star Wars universe has a way of explaining it away. Gotta love that Bacta. But it's interesting to see that they're still sticking with the sort of noble portrayal of Boba Fett that they introduced in The Mandalorian. He's not outright evil, nor is he completely good. Obviously, he's now the kingpin of crime in Tatooine, basically. And so you can't really consider him a good guy. But he's dead set, for whatever reason, on running things in more of a bloodless, let's say Disney family-friendly way as compared to Jabba. And we'll see how that turns out. For now, you have to admire the confidence he's showing. He's like, yeah, I'm going to do it my way and it's going to work out. With that said, he's kind of an idiot at points. Like, he really didn't understand what was going on with the Twi'lek spokesperson. Fennec Shand had to explain it to him that, oh, he's kind of disrespecting you and maybe you should kill him. And, you know, the relationship between Boba and Fennec is obviously going to be at the heart of this show. And it's hard to tell what they're going for. Is it a friendship? Is it going to be a romance thing? Or is it kind of a servitude thing because Boba saved her life in The Mandalorian, at least between episodes, you know? And it's clear that she's pretty much disagreeing with every decision that he's making. And I'll get back to that later. But for now, Boba's got kind of a nonchalant, very relaxed approach to running his crime empire, which we'll see how that turns out. His actions were honestly kind of meandering in this first episode, and if not for those damn ninjas, there wouldn't have really been much excitement going on aside from the flashbacks. But yeah, going back to the idiot thing. Yeah, it was a cool visual, and they even showed it in concept art. It's a cool visual of Boba and Fennec being surrounded by these ninja assassins with energy shields. Problem being, Boba Fett wears a jetpack, and he could have just grabbed Fennec by the waist and torpedoed straight up into the air out of there, and they would have been in the clear. Instead, they struggled for way too long to get out of that little circle of shields, and then when they finally did, it's Fennec who gets to pursue and have her own solo action scene and all that, and I don't know. Meanwhile, Boba's being dragged back to his bacta tank. It's not a great showing for good old Boba in this first episode. It's lucky that the flashbacks kind of build him up a little bit more. Even then, he's kind of, I don't know, he's kind of goofy in a way, which isn't a bad direction to go, because you can't just ignore the, dare I say, buffoonery of his death in Return of the Jedi. You know, death in quotations. We know how that worked out. And so, I don't know. I'm just gonna say now, I didn't hate anything in this episode, really. I rolled my eyes a couple of times, like when Boba was not able to figure out, oh, I should just fly straight up in the air and get away from these ninjas, you know. And he also wasn't smart enough, because, you know, it's still a question of who sent those assassins. But what I will say is that me as a viewer, and just kind of knowing how gangs kind of behave in Star Wars media, such as video games and novels and comic books, stuff like that. When they enter the Twi'lek brothel, whatever you want to call it, casino, whatever, and Boba's helmet is taken and it's returned with a pile of credits in it, my very first thought was, oh, they did that not as a gift, but to make you vulnerable. They did that so that when you leave and you're walking back through town, you don't have your helmet on, because you can't put it on. And that didn't seem to occur to him, or Fennec, for that matter. You know, I'll say that too. She didn't really catch on to that. And I'm wondering if that was the intention of that scene, and we're going to find out later on. Because nothing specifically points to that Twi'lek woman as the one who sent the assassins. Honestly, it would have been kind of quick for her to assemble a team of assassins and say, get him. But it is just something I have in the back of my head. And I can't help but feel like, for the sake of his own safety, Boba would be like, you know, hey piggies, grab your loincloth, maybe bundle up some of these credits. I'm going to wear my helmet on the way out of here. You know, bit of a nitpick. I understand that. But we've also learned that even when he has good reason to, because that Tusken Raider kid was a little shit, for sure, Boba's not going to attack a child. You know, they're kind of establishing his moral code. There's not really a lot to say about it. Most assassin type characters in movies tend to have a no children policy when it comes to killing, and some even have a no women or children policy when it comes to killing. You know, that's off limits. They're never going to do it. So it's nothing special in that regard, but I do see that they're trying to establish his character, because in spite of the fact he was in the original trilogy, Boba doesn't have much of an established character, ignoring the pre-Disney novels and the comics and all that, you know, because Disney doesn't count that anymore. Ignoring all that, he doesn't have an established character outside of the little bit we saw of him as a child in the prequels and as a preteen and a teenager in the Clone Wars. And so we really do need to establish who he is. What are his goals? How does he react to this situation versus that situation? Blah, blah, blah. And to me, that's going to be the most interesting part of the show. And I just hope whatever they establish or begin to establish, they remain consistent. You know, this episode didn't give me a whole lot of plot to really sink my teeth into. It very much was just set up with some flashbacks. And like I said, not terrible by any means. I actually really did like the scene with that cool-ass lizard minotaur creature, whatever it was. I don't think I've seen it before in anything, so forgive me if it's an established creature. I don't remember it from anything. But it was really cool to see, and the fact that killing that thing is what earned Boba some respect from the Tusken Raiders that have held him hostage. It's pretty cool. Yeah, overall, there's just not a lot for me to, like I said, sink my teeth into and really step back and try to analyze. Maybe the second episode will have more of that. Because right now, when it comes to adversaries for Boba, we potentially have the Twi'lek lady, if my quick little spur-of-the-moment theory was correct. And if not, we still have whoever sent the assassins. The mayor of Mos Eisley is being set up to be, if not outright adversarial, just, you know, a presence that Boba might need to be considerate of and just kind of be like, okay, that's a situation I'm going to have to handle at some point. And I hate to say it because this is dipping into my cynical brain, but I also think Fennec herself is somebody to keep an eye on, because if trends kind of follow through to this series, I can't help but admittedly cynically think, and I couldn't help but think this as they kind of had their disagreements about Boba's decision making, I can't help but think that she's gonna betray him at some point. And once he sets up his empire, she might just immediately backstab him, overthrow him once all the hard work is done, maybe kill him. I don't know. It's just, I can't look at what's going on in Hollywood and the kinds of stories they're telling, and especially Disney Star Wars, and I can't help but think that that's the kind of road they're going to go down. Now, I'm sorry, I'm not proud of it. It's just, I can't help it. This is the same company that renewed Kathleen Kennedy's contract in spite of immense fan outcry. And it's, it's a thing. But nothing about this first episode has me worried. I wish it had more meat to it, because they had 39 minutes and there wasn't really a lot that happened that was too noteworthy. But I'm usually pretty forgiving of first episodes. My only question is, can they pick up the pace with the remaining episodes? Because I don't know off the top of my head. I'm bad with numbers anyway. But I do believe this show is not going to have as many episodes as a normal Mandalorian season even. And so what is it going to be like Hawkeye, 6 episodes? I don't know. But the fact that not a lot happened in this episode does kind of make me worry that they're going to have a pacing and a plot problem. But I'm trying to push that out of my mind for now because it's not really relevant to this episode, but it is something that occurred to me. But yeah, other than that, just a lot of aesthetic stuff. I want to point out, like, there were times where I couldn't tell if something was practical or CGI, which is kind of a good thing. I like not being able to tell, like the torture droid in Jabba's palace. It looked like it could have been practical, or it looked like it could have been CGI. Either way, I thought it was cool that he looked as janky in his movements and everything. And the keyboard playing blue elephant thing that was in the casino/brothel doing its thing. I love that it looked like a wrinkly lump of blue foam latex, just like in Return of the Jedi. I love that consistency. They didn't try to make it look perfect. And again, I couldn't quite tell to my eye, at least on the first viewing, of my so far first and only viewing of this episode. I couldn't tell if that was practical or CGI. And I kind of hope that keeps up, because there's obvious CGI like the lizard minotaur thing. I can understand that not being practical anyway. But in general, if they can keep up the kind of look that this first episode had, I'll be pretty happy overall, I think, in that regard. And the music too. The music was absolutely killer in this episode. Might have even been my favorite part. I don't know. But, if you're still on the fence about whether you're going to watch this episode or not, I would say go ahead and watch it. With the asterisk being the show could still completely take a nosedive, starting immediately with the next episode for all I know. I definitely wouldn't say this first episode is worth being a Disney Plus subscriber, but there are workarounds for that plenty of you guys know about. For me personally, this show is going to be my deal breaker for whether or not I'm going to keep Disney Plus going forward, because there's just been a lot of disappointments for me so far, and if they screw up Boba Fett, I'm finally just out. But yeah, give it a watch. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, and that's all I got for you today. I'm Baffled, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.